Warning: the following podcast features views and opinions that are likely to trigger the extreme fanboys and fangirls who disagree with them. Listener discretion is advised.
All right, we're back. I know I said I'll see you next week, and that was coming up on almost a month ago. But hey, you know what happened? Life happened. Dose 2 of the vaccine happened. A lot happened. You know what? It's okay. It's the final season. We're talking about a lot of different things. And this was one I wanted to get right anyways, because normally we talk about a movie, we talk about a TV show, we break it down. But today we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to talk about more of a ethereal concept, which is nostalgia. Whenever I take a big swing, I need Babe Ruth on deck. I need less juiced Barry Bonds. And who else has a beautiful swing with his words and his ideas than Mr. Ed Greer?
Wow, I'm just watching my Homer sail across the sky, hit the scoreboard. I'm a natural at this, you know. I thank you so much, dude, for that intro, and thank you so much for having me on to talk about this particular thing, because, yeah, this has been seeping into my conversations with people for like months. So it's good for us to talk about it, you know.
So I wanted to have this like kind of bigger picture conversation, because when you come back before the end of the show, that episode, I know you're not going to want to do. So I was like, let's get the good one out of the way and butter you up before the one. I'm like, come on, man, we have to do this. Okay. So today we're talking about nostalgia. Because I feel like, you know, nostalgia used to be this thing where it was kind of like this nice little side dish, or it was like a dessert. You had your entrees, but then you had a nice little dessert of nostalgia properties. Whereas today, now, most of what we do, or most of what we are served, is purely nostalgia based. And I think this all stems back, it stems back a long time. But the reason why I want to do this on this show was, I don't know how you couldn't know this by now, but Ed and I do another show that I'm immensely proud of called Reboot It. And our first episode was trying to find a way to make an X-Men movie in 2021, the year of our Lord 2021, that felt new and fresh, because X-Men was something that, you know, those movies came out in 2000 and we've had 17 of them, I think. I don't know. And it was beaten to death. And so, you know, the whole point, if you don't know what Reboot It is, our show is we take properties and we kind of improv and we pitch what we would do to refreshen those properties. And I think you and I were both kind of struck by how people in the comments section, and I understand before anyone jumps on us that this is not us raging against people who disagree with us in the comments. This isn't even about that. It was more just like interesting how many people, and you see this a lot, were like, well, I loved this run of the comics. I loved the cartoon show. Why wouldn't you just do that all over again? And I think there's something to that, because you're seeing that more and more where people are kind of begging to see the exact same thing over again. It's very strange to me.
Well, you know what's funny is every time that it's actually worked really well was a remix of all of the lore of the property, like the way, I gotta say it, the way that Marvel does it. The way that Marvel does it goes, okay, the Winter Soldier was like 500 issues of all type of tumult. Let's carve one movie out of it. Let's take a couple scenes that were inspired by some of the stuff in the comics and stitch together with other things that are going on in the Marvel universe, and then make sure that we do a really cool Captain America movie where he's kicking people's ass. That's our goal. These are our things we set about. They've never, I don't think Marvel's ever done literally to the letter any run, and they're the most popular movies ever. But people don't see that. They don't see how far afield every single actually successful comic book property has gone for the source material and how much stitching they do. They, for some reason, don't see it. So you get these comments that, frankly, some of them are idiotic. For the X-Men one, it was like, hey, why don't you just do the Jim Lee run? For anybody that actually read the comics, that was the beginning of the end. For anybody who's actually read the comics. So it's like, people are telling you, they're just kind of revealing kind of what you said, in that when I was 8, this was the bomb. Just do that. And that's their soul for everything. And that, on some level, that's, to me, deranged. On some level.
It's interesting because like it's easy to almost single out the kind of the geek sphere, the comics and Star Wars and all this stuff, but it's just like when you really sit and think about it, like it goes so much further. It's like, I think the first time that I noted, and I'm not going to try to front that like nostalgia is this brand new thing and milking money out of things that you loved as a kid is a new thing. But I think the first time that I realized like, oh, this is their main strategy now was about 2015, because you have to remember at that point, the two biggest movies of the year were Star Wars: The Force Awakens, a movie I really like, but it's definitely trying to recreate the exact same feelings, aesthetics, everything as A New Hope, which is definitely, they're like, oh, the prequels weren't nostalgic enough. Let's go the opposite way. But the other one that really struck me is like, actually there were two more, but the one that really struck me that was Jurassic World, where Jurassic World was like, this series, this franchise was the biggest thing on the planet. And I think taking it away from the parks, taking it away from that element of it, let's go back and just do that part again. Essentially, let's remake Jurassic Park, add some touches and change some things, but essentially let's remake Jurassic Park. The other one that I think was so much more crass in the fact that it was like, you like this movie, let's do that again, was the same summer, which was Terminator Genesis, which was like, hey, remember that scene in the first Terminator you like? Let's do that again. Hey, remember that thing you liked in Terminator 2? Let's do that again. And I think it was not too much long after that, I was like, okay, this summer, I guess, was just a lot of the same types of things. And then I started seeing Fuller House. Let's take a show that you loved when you were a kid and let's basically do it again. We'll do new episodes with new characters, but it has to be weighted with characters that were there before. You saw it with Boy Meets World when they did Girl Meets World, which I was a big Boy Meets World fan, so they got me. Look, I'm not trying to be a hypocrite. I bought into a lot of this, but I realized in that 3 seasons of show, it started off as, Corey Matthews and Topanga's daughter. But then as the show progresses, you realize they figure who's watching, and it much more shifts to the storylines of the adults. And the kids are just kind of there, and they're kind of redoing old episodes. But for the most part, it's following the characters that we loved on that old show. And now you see it all the way where in 2021, where it's like Saved by the Bell and all these things that we used to watch. We're doing it all over again. And it made me think, I'm talking a lot here, but let me set up this thesis, because then I want to hear it. But I think when you talk about nostalgia, the reason why I feel like there's always a disconnect between the fans and the content creators, I hate that I use that word, but I can't think of a better one. The reason there's a dissonance between the two is because they are both trying to achieve two different things. As a viewer, people, as a fan, they say, I loved this when I was 8. I want to feel like I am 8 years old again. That is impossible. It's just not possible, because 30 plus years have gone by. Even if you're an immature person, life at least has given you enough experience that you cannot think as an 8-year-old anymore. What the content creator, all that they're able to do is, I can't make you feel 8 years old again. I can make you remember how you felt when you were 8 years old, but I cannot actually make you feel that way again. And I feel like not being able to accept what you want versus what they're capable of giving you is why a lot of these things kind of fall flat on their faces. I know I just talked for a really long time, but now I want to get your thoughts on everything.
No, I think I think that's what causes the derangement that I was talking about earlier. And I mean that word. I choose them very carefully. It is somewhat deranged to ask for entertainment, to do what you just said. That was perfectly stated, dude. So, I mean, that's why I think I call it derangement, because you'll never get it. It's chasing a heroin dragon. You know what I mean? And I think, as far as our propensity, though, to do it in the modern age, the fact is, nowadays we understand, and we've always somewhat understood, that a tried and true story is better than a new story. When it comes to trying to sell anything to anybody, how many times has the dang Scarlet Pimpernel been told? You know what I mean? I mean, dude, basic stuff has been run into the Robin Hood. In our lifetimes, we've seen like 5 Robin Hoods, and people who are like 100 have seen like 10 Robin Hoods.
Yeah.
You
Well, I
know
mean,
what I
even
mean?
think like the DNA of something like Romeo and Juliet, 2 star-crossed lovers from opposite sides of
Mhm.
the fence. You know, like I can
Mhm.
name 15 movies that are not called Romeo and Juliet that are
Mhm.
Romeo and Juliet, you know?
Mhm. And so we come up on this thing of like, are we experiencing so much media that we're taking all the basic myths and doing them all at the same time, all over all these different platforms and all these different networks, right? But also, we have a new system of monetizing your nostalgia, or rather, serializing your nostalgia, packaging it in a way where it's like, it's basic smarts about IP. We've kind of turned regressing and watching the same things over and over, like we're kids watching Teletubbies. We've turned that into a super smart galaxy brain business move. Why would you let the IP lapse? Why isn't there a Knight Rider movie right now? You know, it's ridiculous. Why isn't there a My Father the Car TV series right now? Because why? Why would that be, you idiot? Well, I own the IP and I got to get to data mining. Everybody's always got to be doing some passive income situation these days. And I think IP is a perfect way for giant conglomerates to sell bombs and ketchup to get into the business of making some money off your goofy ass nostalgia. They sold you the tomato on the burger you're eating in the stupid movie theater, where the Scarlet Pimpernel versus Robin Hood versus Frankenstein's on your damn screen. You know
Just in
that
case anyone's confused, by the way, IP, intellectual property, it's a franchise. Star Wars is an IP, Marvel's an IP. Basically, now you can't. It's pretty hard unless you're seeing an Oscar winner. It's very hard to go see a movie that is not some pre-existing franchise. I think,
Mhm.
I was really trying to think last night. I was like, man, what is the last like true blue phenomenon creation in the last like 5 or so years? And like the only one that I could really think of off the top of my head was John Wick.
That's all I thought of. I was
Yeah.
about to say, like, oh, if you say anything other than John Wick, you messing up, boy. But that is absolutely true. And the fact is, when we were kids, talk about some nostalgia stuff. When we were kids, they made a new John Wick about every 3 years. There was a new action star that came out that was kicking some butt, doing this, that, and the other in this new way. This guy breaks people's arms. This guy does the splits. And they would build these new stars, put them out there, but also the gimmicks for the movies kept generating themselves. Like, oh, above the law, he's fighting the DA, he broke the DA's leg. There's all these different ways that they were flipping and bouncing. Guy goes to fight other guys, that sort of weird heroism. John Matrix, that's Arnold Schwarzenegger's name in Commando. In today's world, they'd have 6 Commando movies for no
Oh
reason.
yeah. Plus a prequel streaming series.
Uh-huh. Young Commando.
By the way, for anyone screaming at their, I don't know, wherever you listen to podcasts, I purposefully am excluding Disney stuff like cartoons, because obviously a Frozen, an Incredibles was an original thing that spawned lots of different things. Disney's been doing that before anyone else was thinking in terms of franchising a movie. So hold your horses. I'm
Oh, and
talking about
also,
like, oh, go ahead. Yeah.
no. And also, the reason why some people screamed at their radio, how old am I?
Their
About
transistor radio.
yeah, hello, my baby. No, that's just in.
breaker 909.
No, but I'm just saying, so many people who might do that, they yell at their podcast device saying, "Why don't you include all these dope Disney things?" Why is Disney the movies to you? I know I just did a Marvel reference, but the fact that Disney is the movies to people, I'm not, me, I'm not no Snyder bro, but like I do want a diversity of streams. I hate it when when we had to talk about like Sony giving up to Marvel, i.e. Disney, to make Spider-Man and stuff. I hated that era. Go back and listen to those podcasts. There's so much tension in my thin voice, you know, because it's just like it just feels like we're kind of telling people that everything's okay as long as you put it in the right factory. This factory's made me this McDonald's has given me a good burger 10 times in a row. They should just do it. Like, no, maybe you should try the burger stand. You know what I mean? I just feel like what you're getting at is not that many new phenomenons come out
But
because we
here's
don't
the
let
thing.
them.
I'm glad you brought up Disney, because Disney's the one that I think figured this out before anybody, which is you make The Lion King and then it's a hit, but then you put it in your parks, you put it on your Disney Channel. And then not only is it a singular experience in a theater, but now it becomes ingratiated in lots of different memories that you have growing up. And we're not just, if it was just Lion King, that would be one thing, but we're talking 2 to 3 of these, quite frankly, bangers every year of your existence. So Disney, basically their business model has been, remember how much you loved this? I mean, Disneyland packs it in day after day. And I'm telling you, those people who are going there, a lot of them are not families. Like there are, of course, family vacations, but these are people who go. And I'm not saying this critically. My wife and I, when we had passes, we would go once or twice a month. But these are people who are remembering these franchises, these IPs, these everything, because Disney realized, like, oh, it's not just one thing a la carte. It's the entire experience of Disney, and they've built their brand upon it. And I feel like what we're seeing now is, just like you said, a lot of these CEOs like, what do we got? What can we make our own kind of TV dinner of nostalgia? You know
what it seems like? It seems like Disney is like a big stadium, and inside it's Taylor Swift and Jay-Z doing a mega concert, and all of their fans are there. And in the parking lot, there's a guy popping and locking, and he's got a crowd of 20 around him, and that's John Wick. And you know what I mean? That's the movie industry in a nutshell. You know what I mean? And that's so interesting to me that like some of the things that have fired my imagination the most in recent years did not come out of the homogenized system. At the same time, there were manly tears in eyes in certain Marvel fare
Sure, yeah.
because of that. Just like, I mean, everybody remembers the hammer situation with Cap, and it was just like a moment in comics time writ large for me. And I did feel like I was 8. I really did. But I don't go around chasing that dragon all the time. I can't feel like I'm 8 all the time because I'm an adult. And sometimes I want to feel bad. You know what I mean? Sometimes I want to feel a certain elation from escaping Gallipoli. You know what I mean? That all of that isn't in a comic book movie. I need to go outside to experience some of these other things. And I don't want to sound like an old fogey, but I saw Citizen Kane slander on my Twitter timeline. And I'm like, okay, this is over. You got to stop this revere everybody's opinion jazz, because people come along and they want a hot take Sally and say stuff like, oh, I never watched it. I felt like it was homework. That's a broccoli movie. I think if we lose our ability to see the classicism in stuff, I think we're going down a bad path. You know what I mean? So it's like, that's my bringing up a weird counterpoint to the whole nostalgia thing. It's like people are nostalgic for some crap they saw when they were 5, but toss away a movie that was shot on film in 1975 because it doesn't look like Jumanji. You know what I'm saying? And that's
Yeah.
a weird dissonance for me, for our people.
Well, first of all, I can't believe I made it 4+ seasons of this podcast and got my first World War One reference with Gallipoli. Um, I'm disappointed in myself. It took this long. Um, but I think that's interesting because, yeah, it is very much. I was thinking the other day too. I was like, the stuff that there's kind of two forms of nostalgia. I think there's the one that makes you feel like you're a kid again, which I think that, I think you had a perfect kind of example with the hammer in Captain America. There's nothing to be nostalgic about necessarily. Like, it wasn't something that you consumed because it didn't exist in your childhood, but it was almost like, had this existed when I was 8, this is what I dreamed of. I think that's one kind. I think the other kind, and you know what? Honestly, that doesn't bother me at all. It doesn't. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think the one that I rub up against that really bothers me, and this is just kind of like a bigger thing in general, but it's like the ironic nostalgia. I'm watching, like, if you walk around with a Barney keychain because it's this like ironic kind of stamp of like, yeah, I watch, Barney's maybe a stupid example, but you get where I'm going with this, where it's just like, I feel like that's where a lot of like the merchandising and stuff comes out, where it's people are like ironically wearing these shirts. And that's not to say that they didn't like that show as a kid, but it's like, really, are you really telling me that like the hill you're gonna die on and you're gonna flaunt around like your Tommy Pickles keychain? Like, you're just telling me like, yes, you were born in the 90s and you watched that show probably when you were 7. I get it. Like, at least I don't know, maybe that's me being super judgmental, but it's just like, when you look around my place, it's like, clearly I've planted my flag in the ground of like 2 or 3 things that I'm obviously very nostalgic about, but also forward thinking about. Star Wars being one, Batman being the other. But I feel like that's where I get frustrated, is I'm ironically planting my flag in the ground of this thing I saw when I was 8. I'm flaunting it as if it's the greatest thing in the world. And the blinders keep you from, like, you don't have to not enjoy it, but let's not pretend that it's something that it wasn't,
Well, I mean, hey, that is why we got into a big old argument on Reboot It when we were doing Star Wars. Because for a certain part of that time, I was a real jerk, but I was also arguing with 8-year-old Billy.
Fair enough. I'm not going to argue with you on that.
It's like, that was, it's like, we do, I mean, and Star Wars is a perfect example of something that, frankly, if you read all the ways it was put together, everybody knows the story, that it's basically held together by spit and bale and wire, rewrites, re-edits, Homeboy's wife, George Lucas's wife, coming through like a hero,
the real MVP.
You know what I'm saying? The real MVP. And I just think it's one of these things where I just read the way that Chewbacca was made, and long story boring, he got jacked from this 1975 analog issue, like a sci-fi magazine, I think, called Analog. And there were these creatures that had these kind of looking like bowcaster, but just simple guns walking through the forest, and they looked just exactly like Chewbacca. And it's like crazy how Chewbacca was like a weird alien that looked way different. He looked like a bush baby, different things. Anyway, the more you learn about these things, the more it's demystified, and the more their classic nature expands in your mind. Like, they fooled us into thinking this hung together cohesively, jumping 2 years each time in between movies, and one of them has Muppets in it, the other one has Muppets in it, but it's serious because the Muppet dies. You know what I'm saying? It's just all of these things that Star Wars did, the smoke and mirrors of it, in the cold light of day. There's a lot of holes and stuff, but people don't want to hear that, and they don't want to think of it that way, and that's absolutely fine. I just think it's weird. When the new movies came out, we applied story logic to those movies that we never applied to the original movies. And so all of a sudden, why are they going on this? Why does she have the knife and then they navigate over here? That's a stupid scene. And why did they go to the casino and blah, blah, blah? It's like, they were doing dumb stuff all throughout Star Wars, but it was rendered a little better, and you were 8. You know what I mean? All of a sudden, everybody's cinema sins and they're crapping on everything, and they got this plot hole smart bomb. Their mind is a plot hole smart bomb device going down the chimneys of story inconsistencies at all times, seeking to destroy the thing that they're supposed to be enjoying. And it's like, I can't help you, man. I did that a little bit. Bill's a little like that, you know.
Yeah.
And it's like I had to ease up. I had to pull up. I was about to crash into the rocky shoals of super criticism to the point where I couldn't enjoy anything. And bro, I had to pull up. I'm going back to Kevin Smithville. I'm a cry on well-rendered commercials going forward, because I can't, dude. I can't not enjoy anything, bro. Life is too short.
Well, there's definitely, it's funny that this is the shape the conversation takes, because it's like it's almost in direct opposition, because it's like I feel like movies, doesn't matter if it's movie 43 or if it's Schindler's List, films are designed to evoke some sort of emotional response. That's what they're there for. And I think that to dictate how you react personally is like impossible. Like that's why our tastes are so different. So when I see people that are, like I've used this example so many times that it's so worn out, but I'm still going to use it again one more time. I think if Back to the Future came out today, I don't think people would be able to get past the first 10 minutes of that movie, because they just could not accept, without tons and tons of backstory, how a 70-year-old man and a 15-year-old kid are friends. It's not important to the story, they just are, but I don't think people could get past it because we just don't watch movies like that anymore. And I just think that it's like, I feel like I watch movies for an emotional response. Now, that being said, that almost goes into the side, like defending nostalgia, because it's like, if this movie evokes XYZ emotion out of me, doesn't that at least merit its existence if it can give me something? And I think that's kind of where I land on nostalgia properties. I understand that it can't provide for me maybe exactly what I want, but I understand that the memory of how I feel about those things is enough. And I think the best example is Batman Forever. It's a movie that I love, that if you were to Men in Black mind wipe me and I watched it today, I'd be like, oof, there's a lot in this. That's no bueno. That's not a good movie. But I can't divorce myself of how great the summer of 1995 was, and how it was the first Batman movie I ever got to see as a kid. And those feelings, plus the feelings of just watching the movie in general, like it combines into this melting pot that it's a very personal experience for me, which is why I love it. And I don't think, we're talking about nostalgia and how it does this and it's blah, 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 but I don't think that's wrong.
Well, I mean, but you know what this reminds me of? It's an old George Carlin bit, and he goes, your stuff is stuff. Other people's stuff is crap. You know what I mean? And that's what it is. When people are carrying around all their stuff. So when you see somebody with a Deadpool shirt on and a Barney keychain and a Rambo headband, you're like, what era are you from? Were you born in 5 different eras? Like, what is your problem? And so you look at them, and then you look at yourself, and you got a Thor keychain in your pocket, and you're wearing a Power Ranger shirt. You know what I'm saying? And you got a leather jacket on that that kind of looks like Star-Lord and Indiana Jones at the same time. You know what I mean? It's so, but you're cool and he's a dork. And it's like, I do it all the time. And I think it's one of these things where we have tied a lot of, I think what we're getting at in the overall conversation is how much of people's identities are wrapped up in these properties.
Right.
It's your way of expressing your generation, your ideals in a way. Like when I see somebody in a Star Trek shirt, I know that either A, they're the most progressive person ever, or they're low-key fascist and want to blow stuff up in space. But at least I got a baseline.
There's no in between. It's got to be one of those two. I mean, I think you're right in the sense that, I guess for me, it's like there's I wish there was a little bit more, and maybe it's just like I'm overgeneralizing, but it's just like I think it's okay to have those nostalgia vacuums, even to the point where it's like if your nostalgia jam is Back to the Future and you want to buy every piece of memorabilia and blah 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 blah, that's fine with me. I think where I get frustrated and where you and I were getting frustrated with that X-Men comment section was this inability to have any other variation of said property even coexist. I think there's like there's something about nostalgia where it's just like, no, my version is right. Anything else doesn't count. I think what bothers me a lot too is, and I got this with Indiana Jones, a lot of people still do it, and I just kind of shrug, where it's people are like, no, there's only 3 movies. The 4th one doesn't exist. I'm like, it does exist. You don't have to like it. You don't even have to watch it. You can hate it. But that doesn't change like the 3 that you like or the 2 that you like, whatever. Like, it just feels like people think that if a new version of XYZ comes out, that means the old one is no longer valid. It's this weird new car smell thinking where it's just like, you saw it a lot actually when Batman Begins came out. Batman Begins comes out in 2005. Everyone falls in love. Dark Knight comes out. Everyone falls in love. It's like, oh, well, the Tim Burton movies were crap now. I'm like, you wouldn't have this if it wasn't for the Tim Burton movies. And the Tim Burton movies have nothing to do with this. So it's just like, it doesn't have to be an either or.
Well, it is funny how we think that because movies look differently now, they're definitely on average the picture is clearer, just basic technical things.
I mean, we don't shoot on film for the most part anymore,
and everything's color timed to death. I mean, look at Godzilla versus King Kong. I mean, that thing looked like a neon wet dream. And so basically, like these movies, they look technically better than old movies in a lot of technical ways that key grips out there are yelling at me like, well, it's actually this sort of gel, whatever, dog. Well, all I'm saying is obviously a bunch of people are feeding their families doing a bunch of this craft work to make this crappy scene that's written poorly and has been done 15 times before in a previous version look different for this generation. So these people seize on it as the best. I just wish people would step back. I just wish I could make somebody that was 10 be 50, older than me. I want to make them be 50 for 12 minutes and just go through an almanac like Biff, and Back to the Future 2, and just look at all the times that their favorite stuff is going to be done and be like, look, this is you, and point to like 1989, right? This is you. This is your jam. You're this old. This is going to be somebody else's jam. How can somebody else's Batman movie be made 3 times after my Batman movie when my Batman movie's the best? Son, your Batman movie's not the best. It's the one that was made for you.
Yeah.
It's your Batman movie. And that is sacred. Love that. Appreciate that. But don't blind yourself to maybe that 15th Batman movie when you're on your deathbed is going to be the bomb. It's going to be finally Batman as a non-lethal John Wick. All the beautiful dreams that you've had in your life. You want to see Batman ski? He's going to do it in this one. You know what I mean? Like whatever their personal peccadillo is, let them know that maybe that'll happen sometime in the future. Maybe you need to get up off your ass and make that for yourself and make your own damn story and not live through everybody else's damn stories all the time. Maybe you should do that. But also just recognize that there's something special about your time and when you were brought up and the versions of whatever characters that you grew up with. There's something special and beautiful about that. But it ain't everybody special. You don't get to dictate to everybody in time going forward, eons forward. Somebody's on the damn deck of the Enterprise and they got to hear your opinion about something. That's not going to be, bro. That's not going to be. Let people live in the future. Let people have their future version of stuff that you'll never get back how you felt when you were 8. That's special. That's yours. Trying to foist that on every other person in the populace through the comment section is not the way.
Well, what's also strange using the 10-year-old kid again is that, growing up, there was new movies coming out called Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. And now this 10-year-old, instead of getting a new movie that could be this next generation's Bill and Ted, he just gets another Bill and Ted that's really made for us, the ones. So it's like we have a whole generation that's growing up, and they're going to be nostalgic for something that was in itself nostalgia for something else. You know, there hasn't really been, even like, I guess you could say like, well, you know, these kids got Jumanji. I'm like, but that was still like, our Jumanji was still the foundation of it. And you could argue that all the way back as much as you want, but the truth is, like, Jumanji is still half designed to get us that watch the Robin Williams ones come back, or else they wouldn't have dropped a bunch of Easter eggs in both of them. So it's very strange. Like, it almost makes me sad in a way. It's like, there is no E.T., there is no Back to the Future, there is none of these things. There is no Goonies now like there was for us. So it's like, what does, even like Cobra Kai was, again, made for something that we watched, Karate Kid back in the day. Like, everything that exists now that is like very, very popular is kind of still for us. And I think I'm at the point where I'm just like, not that it's like dire, but at the same time, it's like, do these kids get anything new? Do you get any, like, where are their bangers, you know? Because at a certain point, like, we just kind of dry up. We've used everything.
Well, I mean, I think that's true, but I think it's, again, a larger cycle than we're able to perceive. Like, we're seeing time in the limited time that we have on the planet. In our limited time on the planet, you've seen 20, Romeo and Juliet's and da-da-da. But like we were talking about, over the course of time, there's been so many that I think we're like, I don't think we can understand time. Like, let's say like Harriet Tubman died when like Reagan was alive or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, we don't get how time works, how like long actually a lifetime is, but how honestly that's packed with experiences. And it's just the tip of the iceberg of overall time, and how glacially we move through these cycles. All I'm saying is, I think we might be discovering that in the future, everything's going to be a franchise. Like, Goonies, the TV show, might come out in 3 years and be a 7-year running show of these kids getting in all these adventures. And somebody's going to be nostalgic for that. And it's going to go on in the future. We don't really even know like how many times people are going to actually make. All I'm saying is, as a creator, I love that in 2027, I'm going to get to do the new whatever show and get paid for that. And also get paid to explore my nostalgia, to update it, to reboot it. There's something, I just, as a creator, I can't get outside of myself so much to say that I'm like the audience members that see these things over and over. Like, if I was a 50-year-old white dude or 50-year-old dude, and I saw how these kids were grokking to all this Marvel crap, and they weren't watching 3 Days of a Condor anymore, I would be mad on some level. I'd be like, these kids, they don't understand the days when we used to watch stuff like All the President's Men, right? There were whole scenes of them just pushing in on Robert Redford's face as he talked on the phone. Remember that? That was movies. And I'm just, me as a guy my age right now, I need to see Captain America kick your ass 45 feet. You know what I mean? Like, that's a prerequisite for me paying attention to your espionage movie. And it's just, all I'm saying with all this talking is that the times and the taste and the this and the that, I think the presence of IP is a calming thing for the companies. And it's a calming thing almost for certain artists who want to contribute to the overall mythos of some giant story that's going to last past them. And they want to, all the people who write on Batman, you're just putting another brick in a giant wall. Your whole life is just putting one brick in a giant Batman wall. And people sign up for it year after year, because on some level that's awesome. So I'm just saying, I'm letting people have that. But at the same time, I want to see more people doing more stuff like the John Wicks. I don't know why America couldn't make raid movies. I don't know why America couldn't make different sorts of horror movies with those same resources that they use on Superhero Fair. Why can't we explore more different types of stories and find out on a crass commercial level how many of those could be franchises? Ooh, we're going to have John Wick the ride. And then we're going to look back on this time thinking of John Wick as some quaint little thing and some new thing as laughable, because it's going to be just another amusement park ride.
I mean, John Wick is already at the point where nobody feels like it's like, oh, let's make another John Wick series. You know, it's like it's already gotten to the point where it's just like, hey, remember those John Wicks? Here's like another John Wick. But I think you brought up some interesting points. It made me think of another thing, which was, I guess it's just strange to me. It's like, here's a generation of kids right now who are growing up and they love Fuller House, which is a nostalgic quasi sequel reboot to Full House. It's like at some point the nostalgia snake is going to eat its own tail, because it's like, what do you do when they're in their 20s? Fuller House, even more full. Like, you get what I'm saying? It's like I feel like we're not setting them up. Like, if this is going to continue, we're not setting them up with new things to eventually be rebooted, whatever for them later. It's just like, now you're going to be like 3 generations deep on some of these things, and we're kind of already there with some of them. Like, I still, it blows my mind that Power Rangers has never gone off the air since it's been on. Like, it's just they just do it every year. It's like a new one, and it's just like generations after generations. But yeah, it's just like, at what point are we not even you're talking about adding another brick to the bat wall, and I feel like we add a lot of bricks to a lot of walls, but we're not really making any new walls. We're just adding on to ones that are there. And it just makes me, I don't want to be that old man on the lawn or whatever that's just like, Hollywood's run out of ideas. I don't think that's true. I think tastes have changed in consumers, but I don't know if it's the pandemic. I don't know if it was just like, as a country, the last 5-ish, 10-ish years have been like, maybe it seems unusually hard, but also I'm an adult now and I'm more aware of what's going on in the world. So maybe it's always just been this way and I never realized it or thought about it. But I don't know why we find more comfort in the things that we liked yesteryear than putting any effort whatsoever into making new things that the new generation will come to revere as much. It just doesn't seem like a priority anymore.
But I think it's also that thing of these. It's smarter, in order to cut through all the noise and all the different services and all the different ways you can get media these days. It is smarter to come with something somebody's heard of, so it can get the name recognition. I know I'm not the founder of that concept, but I'm saying that's one thing that does continually get lost in this stuff. Is, I think, yes, before, every single movie that was put out was there to make money. That is why they existed. Nobody made any movies back in the days for art, when film cost $30,000 per millimeter and stuff. You know what I'm saying? That
Right.
No movie was made for art outside of NYU Film School and USC Film School. For years, no film was made for just art in this country, period. Your dad's home videos notwithstanding. You know what I'm saying? But like, no film shot on film with 20 people gaffing and lighting and everything, that was not made to just be art. Okay. But back in the days, there would be like, man, an old lady almost gets married to a young guy who's like 17. Harold and Maude, they'll call it. It's based on a Broadway play or something. Or no, it's original screenplay, or it's based on a novel. Let's try to make money off of that. And it was like a simple time of like, any novel, a short story. Top Gun was made from a magazine article. Anything that would generate a movie, they gave it a little chance. They decided what budget they were going to go to and gave it a little chance to succeed. And now it's like, if I can't make $500 billion off of this, I might as well not do it, or I might as well dump it on Netflix or whatever. I just think that mentality is what Scorsese was talking about. And Lord forgive me for ever contradicting the great Scorsese, because I think he said all this a long time ago and everybody jumped down his throat. Or some people like rode his wiener too hard, but a lot of people just jumped down his throat for saying basically, why can't I go to the movies where everybody else goes to see movies? A regular, easily accessible place, not a downtown loft full of 5 people smoking to go see this foreign film. No, a regular movie theater. Why can't I go to the regular ass movie theater where everybody else goes and see a human drama of 2 45-year-old people? Why can't I do that anymore? And I gotta say, I kind of understand what he's talking about now. Cinema used to be, I'm going to be in a room and experience something, some piece of dramatic art with other people. It's kind of a play, but it's bigger than a play because it's got more locations. But we're all going to be locked in, like it's like a beautiful play. And now it's, oh man, I want to see Iron Man shoot that dude in the face, man. We're gonna come in, popcorn spilling. It's I know I'm making us seem like ruffians, but to old people we are. People used to go to get dressed up and go sit down and stare dutifully at the screen at some beautiful human drama for 2 hours. Now we can't turn off our phone to watch Captain America hit a god in the face with a hammer. You know what I mean? So I just think that crassness that's coming out, and again, sounding real old, but that weird crassness is a problem, and it's together with this. I want everything now. I want everything like it was when I was 8. I also need to be wowed and floored by all types of special effects every time I leave my house, or else it's not worth it. All of that together, I can see why people look at us as troglodytes, us young folks, quote unquote, as some kind of troglodytes, dude.
It's also just like, I remember when that insurrection on the Capitol was happening and people were posting on Twitter, like just these tweets that's like, oh man, if Captain America saw this, and like, he's not dead. He's not a real person. If Captain America saw this, like, stop. This is our real world. This is really happening. Like,
dude, that's funny. Like you see some New York was very corrupt in the 70s. There were skinny dogs fighting over human femurs in the streets in New York. It was horrible. If somebody came up and was like, I wonder what Robin Hood would do now, bro. Nobody said that. I super doubt anybody said that.
I think that's where I start to be like, what are we doing anymore? Like, honestly, I'm singling out Marvel just because I feel like somehow, look, I remember up until I feel like it was Guardians of the Galaxy, even in Avengers, it was like, that movie was huge, but a lot of people went and saw Avengers because it was just like, everyone's talking about this guy, do it. But somewhere around 2014, 2015, this became like this, it's so ingrained in our culture that it's just like, it's, you know, Infinity War and Endgame are up there with like the Constitution, where it's just like, it's just American to, you know, it's your patriotic duty to do a Marvel rewatch before the next movie. And it's just like, when it starts to get really strange and bizarre like that, with like the, you know, the seeing those things on the Insurrection Day of just like people doing art of like, you know, Spider-Man trying to stop rioters or whatever. I'm like, what are we talking about? Stop. Enough. Like, end this. And I do feel like, you know, just to kind of bring it full circle and around, it's just like, I do think that, you know, a lot of these things mean a lot to us, and I don't want to degrade that. And I hope what I was saying didn't come across as that. I think it's okay for a lot of these things, like anyone who knows me and has seen me on camera once can look around my, you know, my office and see like a lot of this stuff means a lot to me. But I also feel like what we can't do, and I'm sure if you're listening to this podcast, you're probably not one of the people I'm talking about. Just the odds are pretty low. But I think what's important is like, we can't cut ourselves off from new stories, new ideas, new interpretations of things, just new things in general. I think it's okay. Like, I don't want to paint nostalgia as this terrible thing, and anything that comes out with a nostalgic thing is bad and you shouldn't give your money. Like, I don't believe that's true at all. I feel like it's okay if something brings you comfort, it makes you feel a little good. Like, not everyone has to be a film scholar. If that's all you want to watch, that's fine. Who cares? But I do want there to be more of an open-mindedness when new ideas hit the table. I will never for the life of me understand the well, this is how it was in the comics, I want to see it on screen. It's like, but you've already been told that story. Back in the day when we were kids, like, it'd be really strange if I went and saw a Batman movie and it's like, yeah, I already saw this. Like, every superhero movie was like a story you never saw before, and that's what made it cool. I want to go see that movie because it's a Batman story I haven't heard yet. Like, I don't know where that flipped, but it's like this unwillingness to evolve, to have open-mindedness. Like, I think that's where nostalgia is troublesome, is when it enables an inability to be open to new ideas, and this idea that, like, well, if I open up to new ideas, that means what I loved is no longer valid, which is just not true.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is just like a microcosm, though, of life itself. Like, at one point, as Sick Boy says in Trainspotting, at one point you got it, and then you lose it, and then you don't have it anymore. And that's it. Like, people have a real rough time coming to grips with that. I mean, you saw that in certain episodes of Reboot It, the things that we crutch up on. Yours is Star Wars, mine was because, like, we might be, I'm sorry, bro, despite Disney's best efforts, we might be entering that last gasp of Star Wars for real. Now, obviously, I'm gonna look like a fool when I'm dead and some Star Wars guy in cosplay dances on my grave. You know what I mean? And it's still as popular as ever. Maybe that's true. But what if it was over? Would that be the worst thing ever? You know? And I felt that way about freaking Knight Rider, bro. So trust me, I am not above anything.
Well, it makes me think of that when the Beatles broke up, John Lennon was, I think, actually very perplexed. And he said, you know, I'm paraphrasing, but he was like, look, if you want to reminisce, all the old records are there. You know, we're not taking them away from you. So it's like, yeah, like, as much as it would break my heart that there'd be no more TV shows or whatever, it's just like, I lived for a really long time with only 3 Star Wars movies. Then I got 3 more, and I lived for a really long time with only 6. So it's just like, yeah, it doesn't take away my enjoyment. But also, I think that's was so cathartic about that Reboot It Star Wars episode, which if you guys don't watch Reboot It, what are you doing? But if you're only going to watch one, go watch that one, because it's just like, man, I love Star Wars, but I would love if this also existed to the side. Like, I could simultaneously love both of these because they're so different. And it doesn't mean that the other one sucks because this one's good. It just means like, oh, this is a lot of cool new ideas that just don't fit in the other one.
Well, dude, and that's one thing. That's a great point for us to end around on, is that it's like we're doing a hostage negotiation with people's nostalgia. It's like, okay, we're gonna keep your franchise going despite God and everything. We're gonna fight the natural entropy that happens to everything and keep this franchise walking undead. You know, like in The Walking Dead, where that dude had his like wife and a bunch of people in the barn because he thought they were gonna get a zombie cure. That's you with your stupid franchises. So fine. We're gonna keep them alive against all morals, but please let people reinterpret these things. Please let people inject new ideas into your old thing. Please. It's like we're negotiating with them. Like, I'm not going to take them all the way away. They should be away. They have run their course, but it's fine. You can keep them. But let us do something interesting with them. And that's like the negotiation that we're having, when I think, as you stated earlier, we should be having the negotiation of, can you try this new movie, please? This is a guy who's recovering from, you know, his dad had a stroke, and this guy is having trouble in a small town, but it's beautifully acted. It's wonderfully rendered. Please go watch that in the Cineplex, like, so that people can like be movies, so that cinema can have something for old ass people and something for people who don't want to see shields bounce around every damn thing in every piece of cinema they watch. You know, like I just, it's so sad that the latter thing that I said isn't happening and it's over. That's what's actually over. And now we're just doing this slow negotiation of, how old is the undead franchise you're watching on the big screen gonna be? How new and fresh are the ideas in it? That's the world we're left with now, instead of the other. And it's just, ugh.
You know, I when I used to work at Wizard World, one of the first couple shows that I went to, I bought this sweater. It just literally says Comic-Con on it. It's like a hoodie sweater. And that was 2014. It's still my favorite sweater. It's missing the string that you can like tighten the hood on. I think there's like a little bit of a hole in it. But whenever I'm cold at home, or when I don't feel good, or if I'm like going to go work out, like, that's the hoodie I put on. Wouldn't wear it to the office. Certainly wouldn't wear it like out to dinner, but I certainly still love it, and I'm not going to get rid of it. I think that's how like I hate to say this. Ooh, it sounds so judgmental, but I'm just going to throw it out there anyway. I think that's how most rational adults should treat their nostalgia properties. I'm not saying you have to be embarrassed of it. I love that sweater. I'm never getting rid of that thing until my wife tosses it out without telling me. But it's like, it doesn't define my sense of fashion. I know that's Billy fashion. I get it. But I'm saying like it doesn't it's not like I'm not open to go getting newer, nicer clothes that fit the occasion. And maybe, you know, like I maybe have outgrown that style, but I still am never going to get rid of that because I love it. It's comfortable, and there's nothing wrong with that. I don't think that there's anything wrong with feeling comforted by nostalgia. I think that there is something wrong when only nostalgia is the only thing that you can take in, because you literally are kind of limiting your own potential to expand your own ideas. If you only take in things that make you feel good because you know exactly what's coming, I do think like, unless you just don't care, which is totally fine, like you are cutting yourself off from a lot of really great, not just movies, but ideas. A lot of times you watch a movie and it makes a truly great movie. I'm talking like a Parasite, or, you know, what's that drumming one I love? Whatever. The drumming one I love with J.K. Simmons.
Yeah,
Whiplash. Those are movies where afterwards I really thought about like, how do I feel about this? What does that say? Like, why do I have a reaction like this to a movie like that? What does that say about me? What does that say about the way I think? What does that say about the world around me? And I think when movies are at its best, that's what they can do. And I think it's okay that there's a movie like Avengers Endgame that just like at that movie's best, it just gets me amped and, you know, is an adrenaline rush. But there, you know, you have to be open to everything. I don't just want to see nostalgia things, but I'm also not going to criticize anyone that loves nostalgic things, because clearly I do too. I just like everything we talk about in these things. It's a well-balanced diet. You can't have too much of one thing, because if you go the opposite way, you're like an insufferable prick that I just can't talk to. If you're like, well, I only watch the Criterion. Okay, sure.
Well, but that gets to the heart of thing. People using media too much to determine their personality.
Sure.
Back in the days, who you were how many trees you chopped down, how many kids you forced down wells to dig you coal or whatever. How much, what industry were you in? How many battery covers did you stack? In my dad's case, or you know, how many you know, things you butchered in the butcher shop. He had a butcher shop job. You know what I'm saying? How many fish you caught? That was your personality, not what you saw on Netflix last night. Not your giant Reddit post about how Star Trek Discovery sucks because you don't like the Black Lady Captain. You know, it's just like, it's so funny, like that whole Tyler Durden thing of like, we had no great war. It's like, we don't even have that excuse. We've been at war our whole lives. But us as a people, despite that, and despite the tumult, despite the fact that people who are supposed to enforce the law are shooting people in the streets, despite all these different things are really happening, people are really focused on your opinion about the X-Men, and why shouldn't you just do the cartoon? And that's their thing that they're willing to raise a flag over and go to war over. And it's just, I don't want to call it pathetic.
I'll call it pathetic. I think the pop culture war is the saddest, most pathetic thing, and I won't even engage with it anymore. Like, even on a friendly level, I just won't engage in it anymore. Which is the best Batman movie? I'm like, nope, I'm not going to be baited into this. It's just not worth my time.
Right.
You know.
Right. Well,
what's my favorite is a question I'm happy to talk about, but I'm not going to do your what's the best XYZ.
Well, and just to reiterate what we said at the beginning, just because it was hot when you were 8, don't make it the end all be all of everything. I got so tired of people on the X-Men episode talking about just do the cartoon. The cartoon was the sugar-coated topping on top of the cake of X-Mendom, and that cake wasn't what you thought it was. Go back and even read some of the greatest comic runs. There's stuff in there that not only, it isn't just that it has aged poorly, it is that it never made much sense, but you went with it because you were 8, or you were an angsty 20-year-old. A difference between a 20-year-old and a lot of these people isn't that much as far as emotional maturity. And so like I just think people are they get locked in their interpretations of stuff, and like you said earlier, the way the way things make them feel, and they eschew what it really was. And I do believe if we are a little bit more diligent in policing, like not necessarily how we feel about things, how you feel about things is whatever, but just be cognizant of when you're deciding to close yourself off to new information. That was beautifully said by you in regards to this. Just let new stuff get a chance.
Well, I also think you just brought up one point that I just want to hit, because I know we're getting long in the tooth, but it's also too like, it's okay to revisit something years later when your life has changed and have a different read on it. Like I remember I read The Killing Joke when I was 20, and I was just like, wow, this is so dark and deep, and it just wow. And then I read it again like 2 years ago. I'm like, I don't, there's nothing here. There's nothing here, at least not for me. This, just because there is, like sadistic acts by the Joker doesn't mean anything to me. Like and I think that's how I feel a lot about like Alan Moore stuff. But I think it was just like, I convinced myself that this was the pinnacle of like what that art form could be. I don't feel that way anymore. And I think it's okay to even acknowledge like a movie that you loved when you were 10, and then you watch it and you're like, oh, as a 35-year-old, this is just not a good movie. That doesn't, it's okay to think it's not good now, and without like tarnishing how you felt about, like, you're not robbing 10-year-old you of that experience. It happened. It doesn't change in your mind. Like, I think that's where people maybe I'm, just oversimplifying it, but I feel like maybe there's this like emotional insecurity that it's like, if I acknowledge I don't think this thing is good now, then that taints the memory of what I felt back then. And what if that's not valid? And that was a very good memory. And these day and ages, we're just trying to hold on to anything that makes us or made us feel good.
Well, but also, and maybe this is too big a leap to make this late in the podcast, but I just want people to think about this. Our Twitter stalking of people and our deciding that something that somebody tweeted when they were 17 is them for life, because God forbid anybody change or learn new information or whatever and become different. God forbid anybody actually do that. I think that's emblematic of what we're talking about here. You have to feel about Boy Meets World what you felt when you were 10, or else you suck. That what I just said is the ultimate graduation of that. You can never change. You can never change. We'll never let you change. We won't let our pop culture change. We won't let each other as individuals change. We won't let ourselves change, because we'll lose something of our 8-year-old self. We'll snap ourselves away into the leaves and the ashes of adulthood. You know what I mean? We think we're going to do that. We're not. It's okay. Let go. Yeah, it's okay.
It's very strange. I think that was the whole reason why I wanted to have this conversation. I guess I'm not any further along than I was when I started, but I guess it just is just like, I don't know how, and I'm including myself in this because I think a lot of the things we talked about, I'm just as guilty of, but I just like, I don't know how we got so insecure in the idea of self-identity that it could potentially be erased by growing. You know what I mean?
Or by people not liking what you like.
Right.
If somebody not liking what you like can erase your like, what was your like worth?
I mean, I used to be really bad about like people who liked Harry Potter. I don't know why. I just was like, if you like Harry Potter, there's something wrong with you. I just couldn't get it past that if someone else liked it and I just don't get it. And like, I apologize because I definitely gotten some things like I was taunting and then it turned probably mean-spirited after a while. But yeah, I think, you discount how other people feel about things. But yeah, it is just strange. Like, that was, I used to, there's this coworker at Wizard World who her and I used to get in debates about it, like heated debates about it. Whereas, now 6 years later, I'm just like, I would just be like, that's cool. It's not really my jam, but glad it makes you happy. Like I don't think that's like, monumental growth, but it's like my life is just so different now. It's why I'm not on Twitter a lot anymore. I'll occasionally like reply to someone but it's just like, that's just not my life anymore. Like I've changed. I have different priorities. I kind of hope that eventually, like maybe it's just because we've all been locked up for a year plus that it's just like, I hope that we don't have to like I couldn't even follow the Falcon and Winter Soldier stuff because it got so out of control the very first episode where it just turned into like, you are a scumbag POS because you liked this character. And it's just like, whoa, this person just said that was a great performance by Wyatt Russell, but it turned into, like, how dare you, like, you've laid your cards on the table, okay, whatever.
Well,
like
it's one step above the people who like attack soap opera actors in the fruit aisle. Damn you, Trevor! You shouldn't have did that to Celine. Let me get this baguette on your head. Bonk, bonk, bonk. It's just like, what? What the hell? That it's deranged.
It is deranged. Why are we all so deranged? Is it just because I'm only reading like the deranged people that come online because most of the people just don't get online to talk about it? Does it feel more deranged than it is?
A, yes, but B, last things last, I think people do identify. I don't want to ever take away people's ability to identify with characters.
Absolutely, 100%.
That's one of the essences of drama is like, you think you're a Stanley Kowalski or you think you're a Blanche or whatever the hell, Streetcar Named Desire. I haven't actually watched it, but you think you're one of these people in this classic sense, and you want to identify with these characters. But some movies like Scarface, you shouldn't want to be anybody in that movie. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, what I came up when I was in college, people had Scarface posters on the wall. And to them, it was not, I'm going to be a murderer doing a bad Cuban accent. It was, I am an immigrant. I am a son of a farmer or whatever, and I'm going to make something out of myself, and I'm going to get to the top, and I won't make the mistakes Tony Montana did. There were people who were like that, legit. And now they're grown-ups, they got kids, and they're nice people. You're not a psycho because at one point you identify with a character. It just gets a little wonky when you're having like Joker parades. And I used to have a Travis Bickle keychain to show you what an incel I was in my teens. You know what I'm saying? Like, I all I'm saying is, just because right now you see a good performance by a character, or you feel some affinity for a character in a thing, it isn't the political line in the sand people are making it out to be on Twitter. At the same time, there are people who kind of make it that way because now we don't really fight each other. We shoot words out on the internet and we find different things to glom on different armies to get with, like a giant scene from Ready Player One, right? We get these giant fake armies of IP together to go battle each other. That's how we fight now. So that's why we do it. Again, it's deranged. I don't think our dads were going, well, I'm Wyatt Earp and Billy the Kid. Well, I'm Wild Bill Hickok. And I don't think that was, I'm Daniel Boone. I don't think that was happening. I don't think they were having arguments over peanuts and beer like that. I think they hashed it out like men. And I would love to go back to that a little bit. But again, that's nostalgic in of itself.
Yeah, I was like, old poker night, smoking cigars. I would love to actually just do a follow-up of every guy I knew that had the 300 poster in his dorm in college. Just like, you now?
How many of them have abs? What percentage actually have abs?
I did not have a 300 poster that I remember, but I certainly don't have abs. But you know what? I had a good time talking about nostalgia. This was an interesting conversation. It went to a lot of places I didn't expect, but a lot of places that I really enjoyed. And when I do call it a day on this podcast, which it's coming soon, guys, I'm just a heads up. I think we're definitely in the home stretch here. There's maybe 4-5 episodes left. This is the kind of conversations I'll miss, but the kind of conversations that I'm very happy and proud to have displayed on the show. And I get most of those conversations with you, Ed. So thank you again for coming on a Sunday morning to pop in and talk to me.
Oh, thank you so much for letting me vent a lot of vitriol over deranged people identifying with too many craps and too many political figures. You know what I mean? That people, I love to talk about, like, identify with yourself. Thank you for letting me get that off. To identify a little bit more with your damn self.
For more of these hot takes, like just respect yourself and identify with yourself, at Ed Greer Destroys on Twitter and Instagram. Your art lately has just been incredible. The stuff that you've been posting. Anyone who knows you knows how great of an artist you are, but I feel like lately you've just been posting a lot of really cool stuff. So definitely go and check that out. Reboot It season 4, currently airing right now. Hands down, I think this is our best season so far, and we're like maybe a little less than halfway through. Like,
I mean, we're clicking on all cylinders, and we're collaborating, and we're passing the ball to each other very well.
It's definitely, if this conversation has you thinking a lot about, like, well, what can we do to kind of, open up ideas or not get stuck in ruts. I feel like Reboot It is 100% like almost a therapy. It's a way to let go of some of those ideas that you just can't let go of, to create something new with a group of people. And I'm very, very proud of that show. That airs every Saturday at 1 p.m. Los Angeles time. I don't remember what time zone we're in, but it's always there. Go check it out. YouTube. Thank you so much for listening. At this point, like I said, we're in the home stretch here. I'm trying to get a couple more episodes that I've been working on the scheduling for weeks and weeks and weeks. I'm sorry. That's why there's a lot of gaps too. It's just like everyone's busy right now. But I'm now down to the point where, like, I'm not going to do an episode just to fill a quota or just to get it done. Like, I'm going to do the ones that I want to do, and if it takes me a while to get them, I'll wait. So I hope to see you guys next week, but if not, know that when we come back, it's going to be an absolute blockbuster one. So thank you so much for listening, and I will see you guys very soon.